Welcome to How to Run Profitable Retreats podcast, the podcast that guides you not to only host retreats that thrive financially, but also transform people's lives. I'm your host, Leni Cavazos, and each week I bring you the best strategies and personal insights to help you create retreat experiences that transform lives, both your clients and your own. In our journey together, we'll dive into the secrets behind successful retreats, from crafting a unique atmosphere to mastering the logistics that ensure profitability. Whether you're tuning in for inspiring interviews with leading retreat experts or seeking actionable advice in our solo episodes, this podcast is your go-to resource for turning your retreat visions into reality. Don't miss out on any of our episodes and subscribe now. For more tools and a free guide on creating your own six-figure retreat business, visit theretreatplanner.com. Now let's get started and make your retreat dreams come true. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Retreat Planner. And I'm so excited that today I get to have Stephanie Baker with me. And just a little bit of a heads up, we're going to be talking about authenticity. And Stephanie is a mother, educator, and PhD student who's passionate about sharing the gifts of authenticity with anyone who's seeking the freedom and connection that comes with being your true self. So I am so excited for this conversation to happen. And she offers workshops, coaching, content to develop authenticity to individuals, groups, and organizations. So Stephanie, thank you so much for being here with us today. I am so excited for this to happen because I know you are very authentic for sure. And I also know that this is something that all of us need, right? When it comes to, right, anything that we do, like in our business, we need to be authentic because it's really, people are choosing our energy and our authenticity, right?
Definitely. And I'm so happy to be here. And I very much appreciate the work that you do, Leni, on behalf of retreat planning, attending your workshop, and really understanding what retreats can offer when they're well designed was so fun. So I'm happy to get to talk with you about my passion, authenticity. And just to be very authentic, first, I'll start by saying I wasn't very authentic for much of my life, even though I really thought that I was. So it's, in my world, kind of a new term that captures so much of what I was seeking, but I didn't really know how to name it.
Oh, okay. Yes. Well, I think we've all been there, right? I'm sure everyone who's listening here has had a moment in their lives where they felt that they were being authentic and then suddenly realized maybe this is not who I wanted to be, but what my parents wanted me to be, or what society was expecting of me. And I just took it as authentic, but the reality is that it was just somewhere to please others.
Exactly. And what's interesting is when we all go to that place, like you said, we've all been there, where we notice that we are acting to please others. So we get into this space where we aren't being authentic and the people around us aren't being authentic. And we can't connect when we aren't authentic because the people we are putting out there are not our real selves. And we know that deep connection starts with, getting into the inner parts of ourselves.
I really hear what you're saying, right? And at the end, I always speak about vibrations and energy and how the way we're resonating, right? Because we are all instruments. The way we're resonating is what we're calling in for in our lives, right? So if we're not being authentic, we're probably calling people that are not authentic as well into our lives.
Yeah. And let's talk a little bit about energy now that you bring it up. When we think about it, it takes just a ton of energy to be guessing what other people want you to do, or guessing what will make other people happy so you will be liked. That is effortful. What takes less energy is taking the time to think about what is really true for you and acting from that place. And let's just give it a little bit of an example. Let's say, you're invited to a potluck dinner to celebrate a group of people that you know, and you're exhausted. It's the end of a long week. And as much as you love the people who are attending, you're thinking to yourself, I cannot do one more thing. I need to relax. oftentimes what we do is we'll compromise and we'll say, I don't want to let these people down and not show up. I don't want them to move on without me if I'm not there. And so we gussy all the effort and we do one of two things. We show up exhausted, or we make an excuse that isn't real. We say, oh, it's my nephew's performance and I can't miss it. And so those two places are inauthentic, right? We show up, we're exhausted, we don't want to be there. We bring that energy. We show up with our exhaustion to the event. And that is what is resonating from us. Or we make the excuse because we don't think our exhaustion is worthy of not going. So we make an excuse that we think we're guessing what will sound worthy. Oh, my nephew, and he's in this special performance. And of course, they won't judge me if I have to go to this important performance. So we make up some excuse. And at that point, our friends who invited us can't connect with us either, because that isn't our true selves. And so when we even say our excuse, it's coming from an energy of hiding, don't know me, don't know my truth. And that's the energy we receive back, when the simple act of authenticity is so empowering, and just saying to your group of friends, I love you guys so much, right? True, right? They're your friends, you love them. And I would really love to be there. Also true, because part of you does want to celebrate with your friends. And I'm so exhausted, I can't come and be my best self. I hope you have a wonderful time. And when we shift to those kinds of communications, one, we are free from thinking of the excuse that's going to fit the situation, or free from coming home from another event exhausted and resentful that you didn't take time for yourself. But also, we have this energy that we put out that is like, I'm letting you know I care about you and I care about this event. And I'm also letting you know that I care about me and I care about what I can offer at this time. And when we start behaving in that way from an authentic place, it frees the people around us to come back and do the same thing, and to honor themselves and to honor what they need. So that's one reason I think authenticity is just so important in, even just our friendships.
I totally agree. And, as you're speaking, I'm just thinking that there's so much fear of judgment, right? And that's why we hide behind different masks in our lives, right? We're not really showing up who we truly are, our open, wide heart that says the truth and speaks from a place of a heart. Like thinking about also nonviolent communication, right? How can you communicate your message without hurting other ones, but still standing the ground that makes you really fulfill and take care of yourself, right? We forget so many times to take care of ourselves just because we want to not be judged by others, or sometimes just to even trying to avoid someone telling us, oh my gosh, you're the friend who never shows up, you're always exhausted, we're not going to invite you to these events anymore because you're floppy kind of thing, right?
Exactly. I had a hard lesson in judgment when I was working with a life coach a couple of years ago. And I noticed that I was constantly in the state of, being so busy and never saying no, and doing all the things, but then also resenting people who didn't do all the things, and wanting them to, be as busy as I was and help me take care of all the things. And I realized I was judging them. And it started with how harshly I was judging me. So I was judging my own worth based on, how many times I could volunteer or help out or provide the meal or work the extra hours. And I was judging myself. And then I would shift those judgments onto others. So judgment becomes a cycle, right? And it's not a healthy one, because it ignores the very reality that we are humans. And we get tired and we need rest, or we have moments of anxiety or moments of insecurity. And when we are constantly judging others, it usually comes from a place where we're also being really hard on ourselves. And I think that's an important thing to consider when you want to stop, when you notice yourself being judgmental and you're like, ooh, I want to stop that. Well, start with yourself and stop, judging yourself when you sleep in, or judging yourself when you skip the event, or judging yourself when you spend the money to do something really awesome for yourself. When we stop judging ourselves, then we tend to find room for others to make choices where they're in authenticity, and we kind of end that cycle of judgment.
I couldn't agree more, right? I really feel that at this point in life, we better just like be aware of what's happening, right? Honestly, it all comes from awareness. Like I remember I used to live abroad and I would come every year and a half and I wanted to see all my friends, right? And I would come and I would be so excited and I would tell them, hey, I'm going to be here for 3 weeks. Let's meet, let's go for coffee, let's have a conversation, let's continue, our friendship and just nurture it. Like I'm here just like this amount of time, and the same happened with like my family and everything. And every time I would come back, I would struggle so much because they would be busy with their lives and they would be like, well, sorry, I can't, during these 3 weeks I don't have any free time. And I was just like, what are you talking about? Like, it's like 3 weeks. I'm coming once in a while. It's not like I'm here all the time. And I really want to see you. And at some point I was just like, okay, did I do something wrong moving abroad? Am I putting my friendships in jeopardy? And I would get also upset, to be honest. I would be like, how can they not spare time for me? I've been there for them and every single time they needed me. And what's going on? And it was such a harsh experience. And honestly, it was until years later, right, that I realized that we have moved on into a different paths in our lives, right? And we were not in the same place. And as much as I love them and I still see some of them now, I had to understand that, it was not them. It was not me. It's not that we didn't want to see each other. It was just that it wasn't working anymore, right? And I was just like, let's just accept this, right? The fact that it's not happening and it doesn't make me any better if I'm just being upset or sad or just thinking maybe I should not come and visit anyone because anyway they never have time for me, so why would I do that, right? Rather than that, I was like, okay, I'm gonna keep showing up and whoever wants to see me, and we're going to have a great time. And if we have also some conversations where we have to be harsh, and, for me to listen also for them to say, hey, you abandoned us, right? You left us behind. And now you show up every once in a while and you want us to be right there for you. You know what I mean? It's hard.
It's really hard. And I think that's one other beautiful thing. If we can give ourselves permission to look at things differently, then it has to be one way or the other, and include like it can be two things. So with your friendships, it can be, we love you and we miss you, and we've had to learn how to do our lives when you're not around. And we don't always have the same time that we did. So it's an and, like, I appreciate you and I felt abandoned. Or I love hanging out with you and I can't make time for you. Both are true. It doesn't have to be that I can't hang out with you and I don't like you anymore. It's usually not that. It's usually that it's both things. And I think in society, we've started to just label things as black or white. And we've certainly done that politically. And I think we've done it emotionally too, where we assume that, if we're upset, it's the only way to be. Whereas actually the human body and mind and heart is so complex that it can do many things. You can be really upset at your friends because they're not available. And you can be so grateful to be at home and get to do the things you love to do. So I think, giving ourselves permission to be fully human means that you can feel two things at once. You can feel insecure about your friends not responding to you, and you can know that they do love you. And if it were a dire situation, they'd show up, right? So just leaving room for the and rather than the or.
I love this way because I think it's, it's the yes and kind of improv kind of style. And I think it's great because it allows you to really be honest with yourself and be aware of your emotions, your feelings, and what are you doing, right? And I want to take this conversation into a business perspective, right? Because I think this is so important when it comes to authenticity. Because nowadays, and something that and it's been there for a couple of years now, right? But we always see all this, let's call it influencers, right? Out there on social media, and then they're showing you like, look at this. This is my bank account statement. You gotta be, you can be here as well. Look how well I'm doing, right? And they might be showing these perfectly tailored pictures from photo shoots and, like the perfect filter and the perfect caption and everything is perfect and there's no moment of heartbreak. Life is just blooming. And the reality that is that as human beings, we always have fluctuations when it comes to our emotions, our energy, our approach, and how we do things, right? So it is unrealistic to compare yourself to something like this. So, it's so important in business to be authentic, to be who you are, right? This is what people want at the end of the day. They want someone they can relate with.
Exactly. And I think when we aren't authentic and we're only showing one side of ourselves, what we get back is connection and maybe even loyalty from our clients or our following that is pretty shallow, right? Because the minute you say something, and you're not in the best part of your life and it is out of range for your audience because you've only allowed one way of being, the audience gets fickle and it's like, it can be really hard to please them. Whereas when you're showing up as your full human with, you are excited about your bank account and then you did an offering that completely flopped, everyone can resonate with that. And there's safety in that. People want to feel safe. And when we're only showing one part of ourselves, then the people who want to engage with us feel like they can only show one part of themselves. And that's exhausting, right? And so in terms of, being a social influencer or even providing a retreat business, you have to hold space for the realities of being human. Because if you don't, when people actually experience their own human selves, they may not want to be around you, right? Because you haven't left the space for the complexity of having great days and terrible days, of going to retreat and feeling amazing in a few moments and then feeling insecure and off balance in others. And that can be very off-putting for people who are looking for transformation, right? If you don't allow yourself to recognize the messiness of your own transformation, of your own humanity, then you're not leaving space for people to be fully human.
Yeah, I think it's also allowing like the space for vulnerability, right? To just be who you are and opening up your heart. And I know it's hard for some of us, right? I won't say I haven't been there, right? Of course I've been there. Like I think we all have been there in a space where we're like, oh my gosh, what if I show my true colors and no one likes me?
Right, right. Let's talk about how that can actually really impact a business. So I was working with a woman who works for a big bank, and she was asking me like, how does authenticity relevant in a big bank? And she went on to describe the issues that her department is facing. And these are people who are making, in the multiple six-figure salaries, right? So the bank is invested in them. And what wound up happening, because everyone was hiding kind of their insecurity, is that one member of the leadership team stole an idea from another member of the leadership team and covered kind of the trail. And in the end, now there are 3 to 4 members of this leadership team that aren't speaking, right? Had those leaders shown up to their work authentically, they could have had a conversation about how the bank is downsizing, and that has made them all nervous about their positions and how they're really noticing their strengths, but also wondering if the bank administrators are going to notice their weaknesses, and take the idea and say, hey, can we all work together? Because I'm really nervous about my longevity with this bank, right? Because the bank has now lost these leaders who they've invested in. They're not speaking. Whereas if we show up as our authentic selves and say, this is what I'm really worried about, and I had this crazy idea to steal this project from you, but I know that's not the right course, people will lean into that. And instead of not talking, they're going to say, oh my gosh, I was feeling the same way. I've been so worried about being laid off. How can we kill it with this project together? Everyone benefits. The bank benefits, right? And so, the important part of authenticity in business is it definitely it starts top down, because it's very frightening to start bottom up, right? And just be authentic and make your mistakes. But when we have leaders that are willing to be vulnerable, as you said, and share their fears, share their concerns, share their not knowing, I'm not sure what to do in this situation. When we open ourselves to not knowing, then people will step in with their knowing to create a better, more collaborative, higher end product or service.
Yeah, well, first of all, I want to say I believe all the corporate offices need training on authenticity and being open to just share what's really happening, right? I used to work in the corporate office for Marriott, and I can tell you, it's hard. It's not easy because you want everyone to see you like you're the perfect employee, that nothing struggles you, that everything is perfect and you don't have to make mistakes. I was very lucky to have a boss who was very good in the space that she allowed me to, have the space to go and talk to her and be like, hey, I'm not sure where to go from here, right? And she was also vulnerable with us, and she was open and she was authentic, and you could see her passion, and that allowed us to really walk into this space. But I could see other departments really like struggling, and a lot of people just making up stuff to look better in front of everyone else, like they didn't care if they would like, screw someone around. So it is so important to have this in the space where you are, when you are working with other people's, right? And also when you are influencing certain amount of people, even if you're influencing, the group of moms that are also with you in the coffee shop, we're always like, everyone became this like social, they were like, oh my gosh, influencers, a new thing. And I was like, it's not really the new thing, because we're all influencers in our own ways, just in different levels and numbers, and how many people are you influencing, your impact. But the reality is that we all influence all the time, every single day, to the people that are around us, because again, vibrations, right? Energy. If you come to a room and you're very, very upset and you start complaining about the news and the horrible things that are happening into the world, but very likely everyone is going to start talking about it, right? And instead of being a joyful conversation and everyone having this upbeat moment where you get to hang out with your friends and just maybe talk about some fun stuff, the conversation completely turns around into a space where now you're just complaining about the world. And what happens? Everyone who was super upbeat and happy to be there is not anymore.
Exactly.
Because everyone, there was an influence. So, because we're influencing people all the time, it is so important to know, how do we want to influence people, right? Do we want to influence them from a place of authenticity, or from a place of like, look, my hair is perfect, everything is good, but behind the scenes everything is crumbling and I can't ask for support, because then people would think something about me, right?
Right. And what you highlight too is sometimes when you talk about negativity, people will bring negativity sometimes to connect. They're wanting to share something, let's all complain, about the tourists and how busy our town is. And so I can connect with you. And that is a coping mechanism that people use in order to avoid being vulnerable and really saying, I want to connect with you. How is your life going? How have you been feeling lately? We go to these kind of externals, which can be on social media. How amazing do I look? And then when we're in a group gathering, it can be, who can we judge and what can we complain about? Because I want to talk to you. I want to engage with you. And so these are ways around of getting to the truth that, what is the truth for you that day? It could be that you are really excited. You've got a great new haircut, right? Or the truth could be that, you are just so frustrated with your kids. You want to say tons of curse words and drink a bottle of wine. Like, how do you want to show up as yourself and not using judgment or negativity to connect with people and actually just using what is real for you?
Yeah, I love this. And I have to say, for me, a while ago, I understood that we don't have to be okay every day, right? And when people are usually asking you, how are you? They're expecting these very, I'm good, I'm great, like it's amazing, fabulous, whatever words they choose. And they're expecting this, right? So a while ago, I started just answering the truth. When they were asking, like, how are you? I would say, I'm good, but I'm going through this,
Yeah. How'd that feel for you?
For me, it was liberating. I loved it. And funny enough, people were like, okay, I wasn't expecting you to say that. I was expecting you just to say, I'm good. I said, like, well, I don't go around the bushes anymore. I am owning my truth. And if today I woke up and I feel that I'm going to be in a bad mood and in a bad temper, I rather tell you, because if you come near me, I might not be the nicest person, right? So I just want to be, for you to be aware that there is something going on inside of me that, sometimes I don't even know what it is, right? Like those days when you wake up and you're a little bit more like sensitive to people's thoughts and feelings and those kind of days. And sometimes I wake up like that and I can tell in my body that there is something that doesn't feel amazing. And even though I'm usually super super positive, I'm also human, right? And I just tell people now, and people just get shocked and they're like, okay. Really, once I told my mom, she was like, I didn't really think you were gonna tell me that. And I was like, well, that you asked me how I was doing, and I'm telling you, I am confused. I have no idea what I'm supposed to do. So for now, I'm not gonna do anything, right? Because I don't know where to go. And he was like, okay, well, it's fine. And then, she was a good mom and she started talking to me and asked me, why are you feeling this? And all these kind of things. But she was shocked. She really couldn't believe that someone will go further down the line of just saying I'm good, or, some people might say I am bad, it's not a good day, but no one really goes into the fact of saying, this is what I'm feeling, not even what's happening, right? This is what I am feeling, like inside of me. This is the emotion that is coming out of my body. Like, even if it's happiness or anger, or, some days you can wake up super happy, and you should be able to tell people, oh my gosh, I don't know why, but I woke up super happy today. Or yesterday, something happened to me that I am in such a good mood that I want to spread it out with the world, right?
Right. You just brought up two of the best gifts of authenticity, though, because when I asked you how it felt, you said liberating, right? And authenticity is freeing. It's freedom. And then the other thing you brought up is that after your mom kind of got over the shock of hearing the reality of how you were feeling and not just how you were doing, she asked you questions and you were able to connect in new ways. And that is really the important part. One of the gifts of authenticity is just freedom, having real connection. And then that brings that sense of peace that we're all striving to get.
Yeah, at the end of the day, we are all looking for connection, right? This is one of the main things that we're looking for in life. We're looking to connect with other individuals. And if it wasn't part of our like nature and our body, like human race would be extinct, right? Because every man cave would have stayed in their cave and then disappeared from the face of earth, right? So we are at the end, like we just have to look around and see that communities have been built, cities have been built, countries have been built because of these seeking for connection with other human beings and creating long-lasting bonds, right?
Yeah, that's a beautiful connection to our history and our accomplishments through connection.
Yeah, so it's, when we are more authentic, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think when we're more authentic, we get to connect from a deeper level to the people around us. We get to connect from our heart instead of our minds, right?
Exactly. When we're authentic, we have shed all the layers of pretending that shield us from getting close with our hearts with others.
So if you could tell the people listening to us, some tips, when you're feeling you're not being authentic, and I know you already shared a lot, right? But when people are not feeling very authentic, or that they don't know how to express it, or if there's a practice, or, I don't know, something, that you can add into your daily lives that will allow you to, maybe not in one day, don't become radical honest in one day, but allow you to, yeah, radical honesty is another fun thing, but having like this kind of space for you to grow into this authenticity and allow yourselves to be more free, right? Because it does give you freedom.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think the first place to start is just with self-compassion. Start with self-compassion. Start looking at your own mistakes with grace and just, oh, my goodness, I goofed. No big deal. I'm human. And I would say from there, finding space to take a breath when you're triggered, and just a couple breaths, and notice how your body feels. Maybe it's a tightness in your chest or in your throat. And to kind of think, what is that tightness? Because a lot of times that tightness or that tension is the difference between your authentic true needs, your authentic true self, and what you're just about to do, which is out of alignment with who you are. And so if you just take those breaths, oh my goodness, I'm going to take a breath, and I'm noticing I have anxiety about what I have going on tomorrow. And maybe that anxiety, take another breath, is about fear of not being enough. And then when you allow yourself to think through that, then coming back to that self-compassion and that belief in yourself, no, I am enough, right? I'm human. Nobody's going to do anything perfect. And if I just show up as my true self, I will be enough. So I think, self-compassion, a little bit of breath and quiet time for reflection that includes checking in with the body, because our body is trying to talk to us all the time, for sure. And then the step that has really, I would say, increased my ability to be authentic is when I take time to do a short meditation or breath work, is to just journal for a couple minutes. I am a busybody. It is hard for me to sit, but coming out of a breath work and meditation, and even just starting by writing, oh my God, this was so hard for me. My mind kept going back to these things that are on my to-do list. And then at some point, because when we write, we access a different part of our brain, my intuition will start coming out. And in that writing, I will say, I'm obviously worried about this. And the logical next step is really just to have this conversation I need to have. My intuition kicks in when I give myself space and time to breathe. And then when I transfer that energy through the pen. So journaling has been a great gift. And I would say, like, if you want to up-level your meditation or mindfulness practice, just 2 to 3 minutes of letting the hand get engaged, engaging different parts of the brain. And then you can show up in your authenticity. Another gift of the journaling is you could write down, yes, yesterday I shifted out of authenticity. I started being a people pleaser, and next time I will. So you can make those small shifts because you've given yourself the space and the compassion to say, ooh, I went out of authenticity and I want to get back to that beautiful feeling of authenticity. And that reflection time is really important.
I love it. I am so excited for this. It's really, it is quite like, it's really simple in a way because it's once again, all about connection, right? But in this time, you're connecting with your body and with you. You're not trying to connect with others. You are connecting with your true self, your higher self. Breath. I love breath work and all breath practices involved because it really allows you to connect, right? And also in a chemical physiological level, there is all these things that change when you go back into the breath and into this awareness, and it allows you to be more grounded, centered, and to be more present, right, at the moment. And this is such a beautiful technique for you to be able to reconnect with who you are authentically because you're going back inside.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to say, for example, when it comes to also retreats, why is it so important to be authentic, right? The reason you really want to be authentic when you're running a retreat is because you want people to know that you're not perfect and that you were where they're at in the past, and you learned different tools, techniques, methods, whatever it is that you went into that allowed you to take those 5 steps forward, right? So being authentic about why you decided to host this transformational retreat, right? If you're hosting it just because everyone else is running a yoga retreat, then you might not be very, very authentic because you might not even like running retreats or the event planning piece, right? But it's so important that if you are showing up and you are creating a retreat, it's because it's really something that is speaking to you, because you want to help other people go from step 1 to step 5, right? And you get to show to them why you are the best person to show them that, right? Because you've been there.
Right.
And you cannot
Exactly.
get that without being authentic, right?
Exactly. And there's no part of ourselves that can transform if we aren't being authentic.
No.
Because if you show up to a retreat as the pleaser, then the whole entire time of the retreat, you're going to want to make the yoga teacher happy and want to do the breath work right, want to show up at whatever activity at the retreat, trying to please the facilitator. And so the facilitator of the retreat has to show off authentically to give space for everyone else to do the same. And sometimes that's going to look like sharing your messy path to transformation. And that's going to resonate with some of your guests and clients. And sometimes that means in the middle of the retreat, showing up and saying, I'm not really sure what's going to work best for this next practice. So I'm going to invite you to either lay down or sit up, right? Because when the authentic person we are isn't always certain, right?
Mm.
And inviting people to use their own knowing. And then again, when hosting a retreat, you need to come first to embody that transformation. And what that means, taking time for yourself to think about, why am I doing this retreat? Is it from a place of authenticity and sharing my gift? Or is it from some other shape shift where I have put this expectation on myself to do it? Because your embodiment of your transformation and your goals and your gifts is absolutely going to be part of the energy that you create from the retreat. And it's going to be part of the energy that you are met with by your clients. So really taking time to get yourself into that place of transformation, which we all know when we transform, it's messy and there's all sorts of thoughts and feelings that go along with that, and push and pull, and am I doing this right? And when we save space for people to do that themselves when they're joining our retreat, then they're going to reach that outcome, right? They're going to walk away with that transformation because they've had the freedom to know it's messy. There's not one right path, and that we are meeting them with our true selves and they are safe to show up as their true selves.
Mm. This is so powerful. I love that because really, like, it is exactly what it's supposed to be, right? As you know me, like, For me, retreats are a container for transformation with some additional things and some additional layers to it. But it is a container for transformation, and we can only transform when we're being true to ourselves, right? And creating the space for other people to be true to themselves on a retreat is so, so important.
Yes, you cannot transform your shape-shifting self. You can only transform your real self. So find that person first.
Yes. Well, I think you just said something so, so important in this way, because so for everyone who's listening, if you feel that there is a piece of you who could be a little bit more authentic, right? Who still can get some love from you, go for it, go find it, because it is so true. Like, you need to first be authentic with yourself. This is going to give you freedom, right? This is going to allow you to connect with people from a place of heart. And then from there, you can do everything else, right? But first figure out, right? This has been such a wonderful conversation, Stephanie. So for everyone who's listening, how can they find you if they want to learn more about authenticity?
The best place to find me is just at the website that I share with my partner and life coach. She still coaches me all the time. She's amazing. And that's at authenticallyyours.net.
Perfect.
authenticallyyours.net. And you can read some of the content. And we have just a little blurb about the gifts of authenticity. And you can contact us through the website.
Amazing. That's great. Thank you so much for your time, Stephanie. And thank you for everyone who's listening. I hope you got some useful information about how to be more authentic in your life, and you get to experience it and implement it in your life. So I'll see you next time.
Wow, what a great episode. If you like our podcast, How to Run Profitable Retreats, leave us a review and share it with a friend.